Ashish, how are you
Hey,
doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome, awesome. Well, happy Friday to you.
Yeah, to you as well. Glad to be here.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I'm glad you can make it. So, what is your launch today? Tell us a little bit about it.
So today
Or
we're going
launches.
to, yeah, multiple launches actually.
Launches, yeah.
So there's a lot we've been doing at AWS Amplify. So today I'm basically going to cover, what's new this year for front-end web and mobile developers at Amplify, everything we've done so far, and some previews for things to come as well. So just excited to put this in front of customers because we've used a lot of their feedback, GitHub issues. For those who don't know, Amplify is open source, so we get a lot of customer feedback on what they like us to build. So customers asked us to build a lot of stuff, and we listened. And this is some of the previews of what we've built so far.
So I have a really quick question for you, Ashish. I know Jordan and I have spoke to you so many times here, and it's Amplify. But let's say for the new people out there, can you give them just a quick little rundown? What is Amplify and how it makes your life so much easier in the web world?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have some background I can give about what the front end space is like right now, and then how Amplify fits into it. So why don't I pull up my slides maybe, and we can cover the intro.
Sure.
Perfect. All right.
And while you're doing that, Ashish, we
Yeah.
actually have a question. Let's see. I just want to ask this really quick of our interpreters. They obviously are not going to speak this, they're going to answer it. How difficult is it to ALS translate with all of the product names? Go ahead, Stephanie. How hard is it?
It takes a lot of practice.
There you go. And that's a great question. A lot of people don't see the behind the scenes of what we do here on the show. But there are a lot of meetings with guests like Ashish. There's a lot of meetings with the ASL team, American Sign Language team, all to make sure that, we are giving you the best content ever. So let's go ahead and continue with you, Ashish. Go on.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the agenda. So right up at the top, we have what is AWS Amplify, which is exactly what you asked. And then we're going to be covering a bunch of new launches that we have for customers and the use cases that they enable, and build a couple of demo apps as well. So we'll build a full stack web app to show some of these functionalities, and then a cross-platform mobile app with Flutter as well. And then maybe we can touch on what's next for Amplify that's coming up for the rest of the year. All right. So let's just talk a little bit about the front-end space right now. What are front-end developers really looking for, right? So they're looking for agility. They want to get their apps out to customers quickly. They want to be able to innovate rapidly, be able to test changes quickly, and not get locked into any one-way doors. They're also looking to have like a really great experience for their customers. So that means on multiple devices, whether mobile, web, it feels great, performant, and then be able to also support like a bunch of differentiated features. And part of that great experience means also ensuring like things are snappy, low latency, and of course, as customers adopt their applications, they should be reliable and scalable as well, which is why like AWS is a great fit, and we'll talk about how Amplify can help enable that. But what does this actually mean from a technical perspective? So when we talk about agility and multiple features, you want to be able to create full stack applications that seamlessly integrate your front end with the cloud, minimize as much boilerplate code and undifferentiated functionality in your application, focus on really what is your value proposition to customers, right? And when we talk about the different front end platforms, on web you're looking for a really kind of performant, slick experience, and a lot of developers today are looking for a hybrid of client server rendering with all the SSR stuff that has kind of taken over the conversation. And then another big trend in the market right now is the cross-platform frameworks. So like Flutter and React Native. Basically, this gives developers a lot of leverage, being able to create an application for multiple platforms with a single code base, and cut down on cost and time to delivery as well. So let's see how Amplify can really fit into this, right? So what really is Amplify? So Amplify is a set of tools and services that make it really quick and easy for front-end developers to build and design and ship full stack applications on AWS. And there are multiple components to Amplify, so I'm going to break those down for you. So one aspect of Amplify is actually building the AWS backend. For this, we have the Amplify CLI that was launched first, and then more recently, Amplify Studio. So the Amplify Studio actually is a visual interface that makes it really easy for developers to design and build and ship their applications. So you can not only kind of take like designs from Figma and convert them into actual code, but you can also kind of be able to like visually construct your schemas and data models in a very intuitive way. We'll be covering some of that today, and then actually deploy and even manage that data all in Amplify Studio. So a lot to cover over there. And I think for the CLI, we'll also cover a couple of flows for enabling different use cases and pushing them to the cloud. Once you have your backend set up, what you want to do is be able to seamlessly connect your front-end application with that backend. So Amplify makes that possible both through our libraries and UI components. So the way we operate is like to kind of provide customers with use case based APIs rather than service specific APIs. So they're much more intuitive and not very particular to a specific service. Like file uploads to S3 will be like fairly generic. It'll just be something like upload file or download file, but not specific to the service API. So it's much more kind of use case specific. And then UI components that build up on these libraries to make it even easier to connect your front-end application to the cloud. So you can have one of our most popular UI components is the authenticator, for example, which allows you to set up your login screens in just minutes. We'll be covering some of that as well. And then just in the web space, we have a couple of different offerings. So one is like actually being able to build your app UI and also deploy to the cloud and host your app. So building the app, like both the data model, all of that, as well as like your UI from say like designs in Figma, is all possible in Studio and allows you to do things really rapidly and have much less technical expertise than you were previously if you were like needing to build
that was me.
Yeah,
that's how I actually started building myself. As I'm going to date myself. I actually started building web pages back when the web started. And yeah, you're right. I mean, talk about difficult. If you don't keep up with things, all of a sudden, your page is just not looking like the best. And I love the fact that Amplify really starts you from beginning to end, all the way from the beginning of the actual development to it looks like final publishing as well. So that's awesome.
Exactly. It's like abstractions that are making it easier and easier for you to like get started and all the way from scratch to deploying your app. So we'll cover a lot of this today. Let me move on to what different platforms really does Amplify support. So we've got like a number of like web frameworks that we've support, like React, Angular, Vue, and then general JavaScript as well. And then a bunch of cross-platform frameworks like React Native, Ionic, and most recently Flutter. Flutter was actually launched in 2021, and like this year we're trying to expand support from just mobile to web and desktop as well.
That's pretty great. I mean, if you look at the overall amount of expansion, just like you said, that was just recent. I know Amplify is constantly, listening to its customers, giving that feedback and just sticking it on the roadmap and making them happy.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, like initially when Amplify started, it was just web. Then we had the mobile libraries for iOS and Android. And now with the cross-platform support with Flutter, like soon we'll be like front-end developers on mobile, web, and desktop. So like, the scope for what you can build with Amplify is expanding.
That's awesome.
All right. So let's talk about some of the new launches. There's like definitely a lot to cover here. So in the first bucket of being able to build a backend, we have a number of new launches. So we have in the notifications category, where we used to support push notifications, we now have support for in-app messaging capabilities powered by Amazon Pinpoint. This allows you to personalize your app experiences for users by enabling contextual messages and content without even needing to update your application code. So you can think of a use case where a marketer or like product manager wants to enable a new kind of message to engage the user a bit more, or like, support some kind of purchase or discount that's like maybe for Thanksgiving or so. And they can just do that back in the Pinpoint console, and you don't need to redeploy your app. Those messages will just come in. So that's like really powerful to be able to kind of add those updates to your application and engage users. And then on the data and API side, we have some new real-time capabilities. So we've made it really easy to be able to share like your data with multiple users and enable like multi-user collaborative experiences. Nice. As well as one of the really big launches this year was enabling server-side filters for GraphQL subscriptions. So this allows customers to just subscribe to the data that they care about and not have to filter anything client-side and optimize their network traffic that way. So this is, we'll definitely cover a bunch of this in the demo apps we build, but let's move on to what we have on the connect to the backend side on the libraries and UI. So there's actually a lot of launches here. We're just launching Amplify JavaScript version 5, which has the in-app messaging support for web and React Native, both on the library code and UI components. We've got data store support for lazily loading your related data. So think of like, a blog post that has a number of comments. So you just want to fetch that only when, the user maybe wants to request that. So you can lazy load that with a much better DX than before. So that's new, something we'll cover in the demos as well. And then a bunch of improvements to developer experience on the storage category, optimizations on the bundle size, and just some improvements on how we handle automatic reconnection on the API and PubSub use cases we support. All of this is coming in through GitHub. Like our libraries and UI components are open source. So like customers give us a lot of feedback on things they'd like to support, new features, or just improvements to existing APIs as well. And a lot of those are coming in this version right now.
That's awesome. I did put that link in the chat for everyone. There is a GitHub. And you just got to love GitHub. That's where you get all this free stuff and all this exciting stuff. Go ahead, continue. I love GitHub. Get it. Do it.
Get it.
Get it.
Yeah, I have to say, like, that's one of my favorite parts about working at Amplify is you really get to see the customer obsession in action, because you see customers create features. Sometimes, you can like just look at the upvotes and all of that. Even entire products that we built have come from that. And there's like iterative development to kind of get that out and make sure we're doing exactly what customers want and giving them a great experience. So I'll touch on some of that when we talk about the actual library apps that we're building. So let's cover a bit more on what other features are there on the libraries and UI components. So like I said, Amplify Flutter used to support just iOS and Android on mobile. At the time, that was the stable platforms for Flutter. And this year, we've been really focused on, using Dart to support web and desktop frameworks, platforms as well. So we've already launched web and desktop support for the auth category earlier this year in August. And now we're working on supporting API storage and analytics. So I'll definitely demo some of that today. And it's really cool to be able to even, have a desktop app running so easily, because like that was a completely different platform that we didn't even support in Amplify up till now.
Okay, right about now, Ashish, I'm starting to think that there's like this little, how like Santa has his elves and he's like kind of in the workshop doing everything, and the elves are all busy until, come Christmas time. I could just see this with Amplify. You're all in there, and keep in mind, our people from AWS Amplify are in the chat also waiting to answer some of your questions, so drop them in. But it's just like, your mad dash of trying to get everything done. I mean, just like you said, this is a new one. This is a new one. I think this is just so exciting that
all in time for Christmas too.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Build yourself a web app all in time for Christmas. Keep going.
and this is not even going to cover everything we have. Like, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that's already there. This is just the new stuff, and there'll be even more new stuff announced at reInvent. So like, definitely a lot of things to look forward to. Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
All right. So yeah, the same theme for multi-platform support we saw from customers even on the iOS, or rather Swift library now. So the Amplify Swift version 2 of the library now supports Mac OS as well, and is built on top of the Swift SDK instead of the Objective-C one used previously. So it's like multi-platform support, like all across the board right now.
Nice.
And then lastly, on the UI component side, we've got like an authenticator component for Flutter that runs on 6 platforms. We've got new versions of the authenticator for all of the web frameworks we support. And then we have an existing one of the one for React Native as well that's going to get a refresh soon. So look out for that.
And it will be here at AWS On Air. So just remember to tune in for that one.
Yeah, and we're still going through the laundry list of all the launches. So like, now this is the third section, which is being able to build an app. So like this is mostly what's covered in Amplify Studio launches. So earlier this year we launched support for file storage and file management. Like, we already had support for the auth and data use cases previously. So like, we launched support for visually being able to like add support for file management on Amplify Studio. We'll cover some of that today. And then also Amplify Forms, which I personally think is really cool. You can just create your data model. It generates a form UI for you. You can kind of customize that on the browser itself in Studio, and then generate a component, put it into your code for your React app, and it just works. So it's
Let me
like
tell
super
you,
powerful.
that right there, that is amazing. I used to hate having to do the forms because, depending on whatever different kind of program you wanted to use, you had to do these different things. And they just, I swear, they would just not work for the love of what. And I'm just like, why? And they are just like, I hate forms. So this is making my life easier already. Thank you.
Yeah, I think similar sentiments from customers as well on how we can make it easier to build forms from the data models that we create in Studio. And like, I think this is one of the most impressive launches we have. So like, really excited to show that off.
Love it.
All right. That was a lot of talking. I think time for some demos, right?
Yeah.
How does this really
just
work?
Remember, everyone, those demos will be available after the show. I am putting the link across in the banner, so that way you know where to go back and get this. You're going to make it your favorite because it's going to make things easier for you. Even, again, if it's the forms alone, that is amazing. So let's just continue on. This is exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot more than just the forms in the demo. So we're going to have 2 demos. This is the first one's going to be a web app, like I said. So we're going to start with the task manager app, which is a React app built with Amplify. And these are some of the use cases from the new launches that we're going to show off. So like, I'll just give a second for people to see here. So we're going to start with building and deploying our data model in Studio, and then use that to design the forms, and then integrate that into the app, have it connected to our GraphQL API out of the box, and use data stores, new lazy loading APIs to fetch related data like comments for our task. And then the new predicate syntax as well, which allows you to like easily conditionally query your data.
Nice.
And lastly, the in-app messaging use cases for promotions and user engagement. So let's start with the visually build and deploy your data model in Studio. All right, so now's the tough part of screen sharing. So let's hope that works. I've got a lot of different things I want to share. So I'm going to start with let's see here. I guess I have to stop the screen share and then start again with a browser window.
The beauty of live streaming. Things never work when you want it to.
That's what makes the stream so exciting. It's a unique experience every time.
I've seen it come up actually, so you can.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Can you guys see it?
We can.
Fine? Okay, let's see here. All right. I've got multiple screens here, so just trying to orient myself before I get started. So here we have the sandbox page for Amplify Studio. So this is basically for you to get started, and you can even try a lot of this out visually in the browser itself. And for stuff like the data use cases, you don't even need to deploy anything, because the way data store works is that it's offline first, so you can test everything locally, be sure this is the schema you want, and only then deploy. So really powerful that way. All right, so you can start with like any of these template schemas here, like a blog or to-do list, and select your framework as well. So we are going to go with a blank data model for React. We'll get started. So the first model we want to create is for the task, right? So let's go ahead and say call it task. We've already got an ID field for us. And then for the task, we want to have a couple of fields like a title and description. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. All right. And then these are both going to be strings, of course. Then we want to have another field to check whether the task is complete. So I would say like in a lot of cases, our task can be like in progress all the time. But for here, we're gonna go with either they're complete or they're not complete, right? Let's keep it simple. Okay. So I'm gonna go with complete, and I'm gonna go with a Boolean because it's either true or false. And then another field we want is the due date, right? Just to keep track of when we are completing our tasks. So I'm going to add that here. And this is going to be AWS date time field.
And that's it. I mean, you're just filling in little boxes based on what you're wanting to pull from.
Yep.
And you're basically saying the type, which for those of you who are new to programming, very easy, string, Boolean, very easy to find out there.
Exactly.
Awesome. Very cool.
All right. Can you still see that? Okay, cool. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and create one more model. We want maybe comments on these tasks so that we can keep track of things in context of the task. So let's go ahead and say comment. Let's just leave the ID field for now. And you can see here we can add relationships as well. So we want the task to be the parent and the comment to be the related model that's a child. And we basically can see all the different kinds of let's select the comment here, all the different kinds of relationship modalities, right? So one task to one comment doesn't make sense here, so we're going to go with one task to many comments. Go ahead and save that, and you can see here it's already added the relationships in there, and relationship source as the task ID here, so you don't even have to think about it. We do it all for you. You just got to know what you want and then add it in there. Cool. And then let's add some more fields for the comments. So comment will obviously have some kind of content or message. So let's go with message here. That'll be a string. And then we also want to have maybe a timestamp for the comment. So we'll go with let's posted time, and we're gonna again select the date time. Right? So that's it. You got your data models here. Was super easy, super intuitive, and like you can make any changes you want right here, or you can, if you're feeling like this is what you want, you can go ahead and say like I want to test this locally in my app, all before deployment. You don't even need an AWS account. So let's go to test locally, and you can see here Go ahead. Any
Oh
questions?
no, keep going.
Okay. All right.
This is
So,
awesome.
yeah, we made it really easy for you to like understand what all steps you need to do to just get this working in your app. So each of the steps are laid out here. And so this is like for you to install the CLI and actually pull in your data model into the app, again, without any backend being deployed. You can just test this locally. And we have these awesome helpers to copy paste stuff because developers love that. So like makes it really, really easy. You don't have to select anything as well, right?
You know, half of development is copy paste from Stack Overflow. So
Yeah. We are really committed to reducing the amount of time it takes you to build your app. So like we're doing whatever we can to make it super simple.
I think that's pretty darn simple if you ask me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else you could make it more simple, but that's pretty simple so far. I could do this.
I love this UI.
Yes.
Right. All right. So that was for the CLI flow to actually pull in the data model. These are the actual initialization you would need in your app using the Amplify libraries, and then you want to actually test out each of these kind of models that you've built in the regular create, update, delete, and query use cases. So we even have that a drop down here for you to choose which model you want that for, depending on what their fields are and stuff. It just fills that out for you. Like you can see here the title, description, complete, due date, and the comments array. And you can just toggle here for which use case you want to maybe incorporate into your app to test things out. You don't even have to go to the docs. So just like, go here and like select whatever snippet of code you want, and that's it.
Ashish, somebody in chat has a really great question. Rudix from Twitch, also this database which Ashish designing, does it benefit from edge locations or is it region-based DynamoDB? Or does it matter?
I think in this case, you have to select like a region for your AWS account where it'll deploy. Okay. I'm not 100% sure about whether it'll benefit from, being on edge. So maybe like we must be, I think we have a couple of folks on the chat, so maybe they'd be able to add more color to that.
Awesome.
I'm
back to the demo.
Back to the demo. All right.
Back to the demo.
So I think we just covered each of these different use cases that you can kind of look into and copy into your app. And then once you're done testing, you can go ahead and deploy. I'm not going to do that right now because it takes a bunch of time, and I already have some of that pre-built.
It's called the AWS On Air Cooking Show. Wait, we built it earlier for you. Take it right out of the oven. Ta-da!
Right. And if you want to go, back and edit your stuff, you can. It's super simple. And then once you're sure, you can go ahead and deploy. So let me stop sharing this screen here and go back to the actual presentation, if that's okay.
Sure.
Let's take a second here.
That's if your laptop wants to work. Mine today knows it's Friday.
It's doing fine right now. So all right. So this was the data model we just built. And once you have that, you can go ahead and deploy it and then actually kind of go ahead and use that, right, in your app. And then, like we talked about, we have this new form builder support to be able to design the forms and like actually incorporate them into your app through the generated code. So like I have for the data models we can kind of show that as well right here. So can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
All right. So you see here we're going ahead and creating like the form name, and like we're going to do this for the new task that we want to create. So you can see the same fields from our data model. You can change the design, all of that, make the fields required, and like just visually lay things out like we talked about earlier. And you can add like, any kind of placeholders or descriptive text as well.
Nice.
So there we just removed the completed field because we don't want that in our UI. That's also like super easy to customize. And then you can change the button, text, labels, all of that as well. So once you have this, right, just like we showed in the locally testing, of our models. So you can see here you've got how you want to use this component with all like the steps here. So like the Amplify pull to be able to actually add this into your app, and then the app code for importing this from the UI components. And then you can go ahead and customize the fields as well if you need to, like on submit. So we're going to actually show this in a preview. So like now we were on the edit screen, now we're on the actual customer kind of UI experience. You can test that out right here in the browser itself before you import into the app. So this is the app running right now. They were going to pull in the form code to be able to use it directly in the application. Let's give it a second to do that. All right, so you can see like we don't have a create task screen here yet. So we're going to use that component that we just, or other form that we just created in the UI there, and import it into our code here.
As you're doing that, Ashish, we do have a question, and I think that's a fair question too. Is there a history or revisions implemented into the model design system? So let's say I did something great, and then I wanted to test something else, and then I want to go back to what really worked.
You do have like the schemas are definitely versioned. I don't think that you'll find that in the UI right now, but you'll be able to like basically version your schemas, and then you can, I think, probably roll back as well. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Perfect.
I'm not sure if that's possible in the form UI because that's new, but I'm guessing
if not, it will be on the roadmap.
Yeah. You can still view, I think, your data model for the one that's actually deployed in Studio. So if you're generating the form from that, I think that should also be possible.
Nice. And then we have another question, just really quick as we're waiting. Will amplified forms be supported on Angular as well?
So that's definitely a feature request we have. So everything that we kind of build, we try to have parity. So for example, in the authenticators, we support React, Angular, Vue currently. So right now the form builders are only for React, but going forward, I think we'll work towards supporting the other UI frameworks, just like for every other UI component we support. When that will be supported, I think will depend on all the customer requests we have in flight, and that'll determine when it launches. But I think for sure we'll have Angular support for the forms.
Now, and as you can see, everyone, they are doing updates all the time. So when they say it's on their roadmap, it is on their roadmap. It will get done in one of the list. Continue on with the demo.
Sure. 1 second. Where was I now?
We're up to right. We're talking about.
Yes, we're talking about importing the form component into the code, right?
Yeah.
So let's see here. All right. So we just added like import the new task from the UI components, and you can see once you add it to the code right there, you can see it render on the app. And then we are adding like customization on the on success handler here to navigate back to the home screen. So like if you chose to do this inline in your app, you didn't have to do any customizations, but just to kind of show you how you can toggle basically like, or rather how you can kind of customize the on success to do anything you would need specific to your application. That's actually one of the best parts about how we build things at Amplify, which is we don't try to lock you into any particular implementation. It's all customizable, and you can eject out or customize easily for the components or like even the abstractions we have built on the backend. So you can see here we've added in the title, description, and then the date form, and you can see it's already connected to the GraphQL backend that we had deployed. All that got handled as part of the pull command. And now like we can use this form to actually create and submit new records into the backend. How cool was that? It took like almost no time to like generate the
I
form and
myself
actually
find
use it.
that's cool. I mean, especially the more you get used to it, the faster you can go. So you're talking what, less than a couple hours you could have this up and moving and running. And
For the form, I think it just a couple, I would
Yeah.
say like a few minutes, like
Few
to
minutes.
actually test out like a simple enough schema and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I think it flew by me. I didn't even realize that we were done yet.
No, I was just like, wait,
Like, wait, look at that. It's great. I'm like, wait, we're finished already?
what do you mean we're finished?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Fastest form ever.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to be able to actually get through each of these in the this kind of a highly featured app in just the time of this stream. So it kind of just shows you the power of what you can do with some of our new launches.
Nice.
All right, so we demoed the form builder. So let's go to exploring the lazy loading
Nice.
of our related data. So this will be the comments for the task, and we kind of have like a much simpler, improved DX here. DX is developer experience. If you hear me use that multiple times during the stream.
Nice.
So previously you had to kind of query your comment type and then filter on your parent ID for the task. And now you can simply just, on the task model itself, you can get the comments or any related models that you might have, depending on how you determine the relationships at the time of setting it up, and then just create the array from there. And lazy loading is great because you might have all your tasks on like the task screen, but you only want to load the comments as and when your customers want to view them. So like this allows you to like optimize how much data you're pulling in from the backend, and the time for you to render all of that on the screen as well. Another thing we have as part of the Amplify v5 launch for JavaScript is improvements to how we can have conditions on our models when querying. So like I think just like looking at the old and new syntax will make that very apparent just how much more intuitive it is, because earlier each of your different predicate values, like here EQ refers to like equals, so had to be strings, and you had to you wouldn't have things like autocomplete and stuff available. Now you just have them as like functions, so you can look at all the available conditions you can apply on your model. And then like in this case, we had a screen for tasks that are pending and tasks that are complete, so we want to query them conditionally like that. So this is how it would be. You can just do task.complete equals false or true, rather than having to look up what string it was and then embed that in this in the code there. So a lot more intuitive and easy to do in your IDE.
Nice.
All right, and one more feature we're going to add into this app, and I'll demo the lazy loading as well, but one more feature we want to add into this app is the ability to do some in-app messaging. So for that, we have to set up the backend using the CLI, and then we can go into the pinpoint console and actually configure what that message looks like. So just for simplicity and saving time, the entire CLI flow is an image here. So you'd go ahead and init your project, add the notifications category, and now you can see in-app messaging in there as well, along with the other channels. Select in-app messaging, and then after that, once you've done with selecting that, you basically have to type amplify push to actually deploy this to the backend. Once deployed, you can go into your pinpoint console and start using the console to create a campaign for the in-app messages you want to have show up in the app. So once you have it deployed, you go here, the pinpoint console, select campaigns, and then we can go through what it's like to create a campaign and the different types of in-app messages available to you. So you're going
Which
to
was my next question is those in-app messages, are there kind of like some pre-canned ones that I could use and just kind of update, and because maybe I'm not feeling that great of knowing what I'm saying today. So that's awesome.
No, so like actually this is for a non-technical user as well. Like it could just be a marketer who wants to who wants to run a promotion that comes up, like you said, in different kind of experiences. So maybe a full screen message, a modal message, or a banner that slides in from a particular section of the screen. So we'll show all of that. But
I love that.
Yeah, so you can go ahead.
I see there's to interrupt you briefly. I see there's like an A/B campaign.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a great little button to look at.
So this may not be part of your demo, but I was just curious. So would this be a thing where you could put up 2 different banners and like see what the customer response was?
Yeah, this is like, I think, just to enable A/B testing, like you said, for running different kinds of campaigns and see which ones convert better. It's not even specific to in-app messaging. It could be like, anything else. Right now, you have in-app messaging enabled here because of how we've set up the backend and deployed it. But it's a general campaign type for A/B testing the different,
and I see all the different channels that you have on there too. I think that's, I mean, I know this demo is just the in-app, but the fact that you have email, SMS, push notifications, customize, which I can imagine custom could be in-browser notifications. So that's amazing.
So in the previous screen we had here, like the CLI setup, you can choose the channel, right? So you could have push notifications depending on whether it's iOS or Android, in-app messaging, email, and SMS. So you can even actually update your backend later to support push or email or whatever you want to add to your app, or select them all at the same time and deploy it together. So then it'll be available all at once. But for this demo, it was the focus is in-app messaging. That's why that was selected.
All right, let's do some in-app messaging.
All right. So let's skip ahead here. So yeah, we can select a segment as well. In this case, we want this message to go out to everybody. All right. So these are the different types of in-app message UIs that you can have, like you were talking about. Nice. So you can actually preview them on the right-hand side there. So I think right now they've selected a top banner, and this is the mobile variant. So you can go ahead and actually look at what the preview would be like in your application right here in the console. You can customize the look and feel of this. You can have like an image from a URL that you like. In our case, we've put the Amplify logo, and you can see like we're selecting the different types of messages to select the best one for this particular campaign. So this is basically, since it's a task manager app, a product manager may want to increase engagement by, having some kind of gamification. So as you complete more tasks, kind of rewarding you with this message that, great job on completing them. And then you could have a call to action and stuff embedded in there as well through the buttons that opens up to something, or, all that is customizable. In this case, we have a simple message that we're going to show as a bottom banner. And you can see what it's going to look like on the browser over here.
Nice. All within the same thing. I can see it. I can test it. I can try it. See what it looks like, instead of having to open up a web page, see what it looks like.
Like manually be typing like all the different forms of like, oh no, I've left off like a bracket and now it's not working on the tablet version. It's just, this is so much easier.
Or no, my favorite, it's not working. Why?
Yeah, it's just not working, period. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you don't need to change anything in your app when you're running these campaigns. Like your app will be configured with, the UI for the in-app messaging to actually just trigger, but the message that's going to be displayed is based on the payload that Pinpoint sets up here. So you sync that and you can keep changing it. So like today, if you want to do a Thanksgiving promotion and then later change it to Christmas, the app developer doesn't need to change the in-app message or do anything to deploy that to their app. It's just gonna work out of the box based on what the marketer has set up and deployed in the console here. Nice. Which is really cool. Like you don't need to sync with your development team as you create a new campaign on the marketing side.
No, they could pretty much look over your shoulder and say, push that button, type this here, and ta-da!
You don't have to even talk to each other. You can just
I like that. Don't talk to me.
We don't even need to talk to anyone, honestly.
I love it.
All right. So we've gone ahead and like created the, let me just go back there. Sorry about that. I wanted to kind of focus on the event type there. So let me just try and pull that up here. So if you see here, we've created an event to trigger it called complete task, because we want this event to be emitted in the app to trigger this particular kind of message. So you can always change the campaign event type and the UI that pops up to match like what you want to exactly do. So I'm going to come back to this in the code. So that's why I want to just focus on that. And then let's say you want to show this only a particular number of times or like on a particular condition. So we've set the task count to be greater than 2. So if you complete more than 2 tasks is when you want to get this message. So again, like that didn't have to be in the application code as well. And then this campaign, you can set the start and end times so that it's only running during that period. All right, so you can come here and preview your campaign finally before it's rendered in the app.
Yeah,
and then like launch it to make it available. All right, so I think that covers like how you can actually create the campaigns, and then we can look at what it looks like to incorporate this into your app. So like I said, you just have to import the in-app messaging UI component. So you have the Amplify React UI package from which we're going to import in-app messaging. Just wrap that in your wrap your component with this higher order component. So basically your task list will have like the in-app messaging HOC, and then all you have to do is like set up what events you're dispatching. So like we're going to dispatch complete task, but we don't know after how many times it should show up, right? That was all configured in Pinpoint. So as a developer, I don't need to think about the conditions. Every time a task is completed, I just dispatch complete task. And then depending on however the PMs or marketers want to determine what gets shown, that's all done in Pinpoint. No need to deploy a new version. No need to even like sync between the teams. So that's how seamless it can be. All right. Now let's kind of just put all of this together, right? We talked about the lazy loading. We talked about the in-app messaging. So we're going to go ahead and show some of how that actually works in the application now. So we're going to go ahead and create a couple of tasks.
There you go, Daily Push on Twitch. We are putting in your analytics and all the other things that you asked about. So this is awesome. He's reading your mind.
All right, so we've gone ahead and added a couple of tasks here. We are going to show how, as you complete these tasks, it's going to trigger a different kind of campaign. The campaign specific in-app message, and also then talk about some of the comments and how you can display them in the app. So right now, these are just the tasks. No comments have been created. All right. So we complete each of these tasks. As you complete them, you see the in-app message didn't show up, but there's only one task completed as of now. So we should see it trigger once you complete 2. So like, there you go. Like, so you complete the second task. That's when the marketer wanted to have this engagement message go out. So we didn't even add anything like, if like, the count is to display this in your app, just happened through the deployed campaign in Pinpoint, without us having to configure anything in the application, which I think is like really cool. All right. And then now, since I was talking about the conditional campaigns you can have running at different periods of time, like set reminder can be a premium feature that you can have, the customers pay for, and you can give discounts, say during Thanksgiving or Christmas. So like, some particular kind of like 30% discount, whatever maybe the business team or marketers determine. So you select this, you can configure a completely different type of campaign, like a modal or full screen that has the holiday sale, and then this can end at whatever appropriate time you set up in the campaign and no longer show up after that. It'll just be like your default subscription message that they would have set up after that.
So after you're done with that marketing meeting, you could go ahead, put it in there, and hit go when it needs to.
Right.
You don't have to think about it. Set it and forget it.
Right.
Perfect.
And if you just saw there, we had the comments tab clicked on, and that loaded the comments for the first task that was created. So like we talked about, you can just lazy load the comments or any related data for your models as needed in your app. So you can see like the first two were already loaded. That's why they were there. And then the third one loaded after because it was created later and was not rendered in the app till this point.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's all pretty cool. So
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So like in just that much time, we've created like a web app where we like built the data model in Studio. We deployed it. We had lazy loading. We had conditional rendering of like completed and pending tasks, and then 2 in-app messages as well. Of course, it takes a little bit of time to deploy the in-app message. Here we have skimmed over that part, but you can understand just how much acceleration these kind of features provide front-end developers.
Yeah, Ashish, I'm remembering back to when I took a Swift iOS development class back in undergrad, and if I were to try to do this totally manually, this probably would have taken me like a month.
I was thinking the same thing.
Very convenient.
All within an hour.
Yeah, and I actually have a few more things to show off as well in a completely different framework, like Flutter, which will have now support for web and desktop as well, and a couple of other features bundled into that app. So if you're up for it, I can do another demo.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's Christmas.
It is the Friday of giving, and we're getting ready for Christmas. So come on.
Awesome. All right. Let's do it.
Veterans, your freebies aren't until later in the afternoon anyway, so you can go get your freebies later. Let's learn how to get this going so we can make our own freebies.
Right. All right. So let me just talk a little bit about what Flutter is, because it's a new framework. Not everyone may be aware about it yet. So Flutter is basically Google's cross-platform framework for building beautiful natively compiled applications on multiple platforms from a single code base. It uses the Dart programming language and allows you to build apps for iOS, Android, web, and then different desktop framework platforms like Lead, Santa Claus, or AWS Amplify. That could be good and bad as well. I still have to get the white hair and the.
You already got the beard, though. I mean,
yes, I got
part of the way there.
I'm getting there. All right, yeah. So like I said, we had support for just mobile initially, and then now we've been launching web and desktop support with auth already out there, and API storage and analytics coming up this week. So we're going to build an application that uses all of these 3 categories, and then we're going to use the CLI to build the backend for auth and API. And then, like I said earlier this year, we had Studio launch the file storage capabilities, which we're going to enable in Studio rather than the CLI this time. And then we're going to go over the authenticator widget. So that's another connected component that makes it super easy to add like your login flows in your app. And then we're going to have this app run on web and desktop, and actually have real-time events between the users, and show how we can filter them using server-side subscriptions. So let's go for it. So the first step would be creating and configuring the auth and API backend with the CLI. So very similar to in-app messaging. You need to do the init flow and then add the categories, but we're going to show it here. It's a little sped up just to kind of save some time. But yeah, let's go ahead. So you're going to start with creating the Flutter app, which you're calling TweetStorm. Go ahead and go into your app, and we're going to init the project. You can just select a lot of the defaults in this case. All right, now we're going to go ahead and add the categories. So we're going to add auth first. Go with the default configuration. And then in API, we're going to set up different authorization modes. We'll cover this in the schema once it's generated as well. Okay. So we have gone ahead and asked for a blank schema there. So this is an example of the, oops, sorry about that. Let me skip ahead to where we were. Yeah, this is an example for the tweet schema we would want. So you'd have like the content, and then we're going to have the storage category as well for image files. So we have the image key there. And then we have a couple of authorization rules here as well. So we want like the tweet owner to be able to read, create, and delete their tweets. Like they're the only ones who should be able to actually author something that's associated with them or delete something that they've authored. But we want anyone who's signed in to be able to read other people's tweets, so that you're not only reading your tweets, you can read any signed in user's tweets. So that's why we have enabled owner with read, create, and delete, and then private with read enabled. And there's a lot of different authorization rules you can set up. They're all in the Amplify docs under CLI and GraphQL. You can kind of pick what makes sense for your application. But for us right now, this is the right model to go with.
Yeah, that was my next question is how do you know which ones to pick? And the fact that, like you said, you actually have something that's awesome.
Right.
Helpful.
All right. So now we're going to go ahead and push this configuration to our backend, and actually then go ahead and deploy everything to the cloud. So you can see both the auth and API resources are going to be created now. All right, so now that we have our backend deployed, that was with the CLI, right? So some developers love using like a CLI tool, but with Studio, you can kind of, if you prefer a more visual thing, you can go ahead and use that. Auth and data are already enabled, and this year we launched the support for storage as well. So we're going to go ahead and see what that would look like after you set up these two categories on the CLI, how we can enable file storage in Studio. So go ahead and type Amplify console to enable Studio for this project. So go ahead and open that URL. So enable Amplify Studio. You could have done this starting from Studio as well, but we're kind of showing a different flow just to show how you can use everything together. All right, so we go ahead and launch
functionality that you can add or not add. It's up to you.
So now we're going to go ahead and launch the Studio console. Just waiting for that. So you can see like data model there is what we had done earlier today. So yeah, so now for your file storage, you can enable what exact configuration you want using the visual interface in the browser versus on the CLI, but it's the same options pretty much. So you can set up what kind of authorization config you want. So basically, you want to enable this only for signed in users to upload, view, and delete. You could have guest users as well, but for this app, it's only for logged in users of the social media app that we're building. So go ahead and deploy that. Enjoy the animation. All right, and then once it's deployed, again we've got the helpful contextual code snippets for each next step that you have to do. So you go ahead and you can run Amplify pull to get this all pulled into your app project, and then you'll be able to use it after that. Awesome.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it happens so quickly, and you're literally putting it in one screen saying everything I want to do, and then you're using one little smart, tiny little line of code to pull it all in. Everything you just did, clicked, it just pulled it right in.
Yeah, it's a lot faster than having to do this all kind of one at a time for each of the services, and then think about how you're going to integrate with that. Like Amplify kind of has already got an opinionated way to do this. That'll really help do this with best practices built in. You can customize for your use case, like we saw, like the different authorization rules both on the GraphQL schema and on the file upload functionality as well. So it does really speed up your development. I will add though that on the deploy flow we did speed up that video a bit, but otherwise also you can understand just how fast it is. All right, so we talked about the API and storage part, but this is what I was talking about for the authenticator UI component. So in just a couple of lines of code, you can take your app that you've built and then add like your login flows by wrapping it in the authenticator widget. So struggling with PowerPoint over here, but let's give it another try.
PowerPoint is a struggle. It's okay.
All right. So you can see we just added this authenticator widget that's wrapping our app, with the feed screen being the home screen that will be displayed once you're logged in. Once you have that, just refresh your app. Flutter is hot reloading, meaning that whatever you change in the code, you can immediately see it reflect. Like we were talking about, like front-end developers want to easily and rapidly innovate and iterate on stuff. So like cross-platform framework, so you make that easy to see changes right away. So you can see the authenticator screen showed up. And this is the default theme that we have. But we may want to customize it more for the look and feel of the app that you're you worked with your designers or whatever. So in this case, we're going to make it more let's say Amazon-like. So we're going to choose the orange color here. So you can see it was super easy to just pass in the theme, and now we have like all the different buttons, text, everything update accordingly. And you can look at our docs to kind of see how you can enable things like dark mode and stuff as well. Super easy to customize. And for more kind of elaborate customization, we have ways to do that as well. So definitely check out our docs and look into how you can add authentication, authorization to your app with the authenticator. All right, so now that we've added the authenticator UI, we want to actually use the new API and storage capabilities to run this on web and desktop. We showed the mobile flow already. That's been there from quite a while. But now we have like web and desktop support. and we're going to show how you can create like new tweets and then add images and stuff as well. So let's go do that.
Let's do it.
All right, so you have
by the time we're done, ready to use.
Yeah, exactly. So where you can see the authenticator here now with this new theme on the browser there, and this is a macOS app on the left. So we're going to have 2 different logged in users tweet. And you can see like the real-time subscriptions allow users to kind of get data as and when it's available in the backend. How cool is that? Like that took like barely any time to
matter of fact, I was like, wait, wasn't there more?
You've done it again, Ashish. We're right by us.
I'm just doing like the demo. It's been a huge team effort across multiple teams, like the library teams, AppSync, Studio, UI, everything coming together to kind of just create this cohesive experience. But yeah, we're really excited for all these new features and how customers can like leverage them to build their apps. So
yeah, I mean, congrats to the whole team. This is a monumental effort. This is super cool.
For sure.
All for us to make things easier. Right. I love it.
All right. So that was just like text-based tweets, but we added that image key again, if you remember, in the schema. So we're going to show how you can actually create tweets with images as well. So we added like the Amplify logo there, and you can see like now it's rendered the content, the author, and the image from S3. So like super easy to do that. Like just enable file storage on the back end, add the image key in your schema, and then render once your data loads. So you can like make it super easy to kind of build rich content into your social media kind of applications here. Nice. Now, one major feature that we've launched this year, one of the biggest since like our support for GraphQL use cases and subscriptions, is allowing server-side filters on the GraphQL subscriptions. So this allows customers to basically just get the data that they care about by setting up the filters, and it helps optimize network traffic because you're only getting the event for the data that you care about, and not for everything that you're then filtering locally. So like here's like a visual representation of what that is. So like you can have all these different incoming events into your app, but you only care about specific content, or you can configure that differently for different users as well. So let's say we say Amplify for one filter, other one is for DynamoDB. So now instead of getting all the events to your application, you're only going to get the ones you care about filtered on the content.
Giving the customers exactly what they're wanting instead of...
Yeah, this was a really big one that customers have asked for from quite a while. So we're really glad like we're able to launch this, and it's super powerful, which I can like show right now in this next demo as well. So we're going to have like an actual tweet storm here for different kinds of food, and then we're going to set up a filter for only specific kind of content that we want. So you can see here like all kinds of tweets are coming through, both for the authoring user and then for any other user that's signed in. But then we're filtering only on Pi right now. So you're seeing much less tweets come in that are just specific to that one, rather than everything that was like storming on the left. So that is all done server side. So it's not like getting all the events using your mobile data, all of that. So it's really kind of optimized for exactly what you care about.
Nice.
All right. So I think we just built an app that runs on mobile, web, and desktop that has really easy to set up authentication and login flows, API category for being able to do real-time data kind of use cases like a tweet in this case across multiple users, and then storage category for all images that we want to render, with the tweets, and then being able to also filter your subscription events server side. So I think that's like, that shows how you can even combine these different features for all the apps you're building, both from the React web app use cases and the Flutter one. I hope like it shows the power of all the launches that we've had so far, and a bunch that are going to be coming up next as well.
I think the really awesome thing is you really managed to show that you could do this real time, and by just doing real time apps and just changing things as you're going along, I mean, there's the development process alone just simplifies and goes much quicker. Then you're not having to put it on your sprint, do it 2 weeks later, and hopefully it's done. It's like one and done.
Yeah, I think like the time to get an MVP out, or like even add a new kind of capability to your application is super is really largely reduced because of a lot of the things we've built here. And the great thing is that it's not locking into anything that's could be something that you have to stick with forever. It's all built on top of AWS, so you can always customize things as needed. You can there's also a feature called extensibility, which you can look into, so you can basically extend beyond what Amplify's default categories allow for. In the libraries, we have a concept called being able to like eject as well, like so like you can basically use exactly every configuration that you have, and then use the SDK underneath as well. So like it's super powerful to get started, to like even deploy production applications and to customize. So it's one of the real kind of powerful tools for front-end developers today for all the use cases that we covered right in the start of the talk. So really excited to see what customers do with it, and all the feedback that comes in on GitHub and Discord, to help us improve things even further.
Yeah, I'm really psyched to see what customers do with this, definitely. So I almost feel bad asking like what's coming up, soon, what's on the roadmap, because you've already given us so much. But can you give us any hints what's going to be coming up soon on the agenda for your team?
Yeah, I think so. You can look out for announcements for each of these. Some of these launches in the next week as well. So some announcements and tutorials and stuff will be published next week for Flutter, JavaScript, all that stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. That'll be probably the first things that will come out. And then speaking specifically on the cross-platform side, so web and desktop support for Flutter for all these three categories is already coming out this year. And then next year, we're going to look into data store being on web and desktop as well. Another thing that we're really hearing a lot from customers that they want support for is push notifications. So we have push notifications in React Native today, but now that we offer iOS, Android, and Flutter as well, we're trying to launch support for all those frameworks and platforms and stuff in later this year as well. So push notifications is a big one. There are also a number of features that customers have asked for across like CLI library that are tagged under RFC in our repos. So you can actually even go there and like upvote them, provide feedback on what you'd like to see for each of these things that are being considered to be built, and kind of give feedback to the development team that can be incorporated into like the design and developer experience as well. So yeah, I guess those are some exciting things coming up. And there are, I think, some more items that will be announced at reInvent that I shouldn't give away over here. So
you just have
stay
to
tuned for those.
on air to get those.
Yes, exactly.
At reInvent. Well, this has been awesome, Ashish. I mean, we have learned a lot, and I myself am going to be playing with this over the weekend. I have to say, this is my next fun task to get to learn. Awesome. Really quick, where can people find out more about this and get started?
Yeah, so I think some people can share links in the chat, but we have like our docs. You can get started there. There are tutorials and specific getting started flows as well, to get an understanding of the different categories you'd want to explore. We also have all our stuff on GitHub. If you want to look into, if you're trying out stuff, you have a question, you have feedback, maybe you run into a bug, that's the best place to engage the teams. So just go ahead and open a GitHub issue, and we'll get back to you there. And we also have Discord, which allows you to, kind of more real time, ask questions, get feedback from the team. We run Discord office hours as well. So I think these are like the best ways to engage with the team.
You're right there for the customers to engage. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashish. It has been an awesome Friday spending with you, learning all about Amplify, all the updates. I really cannot wait to talk to you at reInvent and see what else coming up. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks so much for having us. Yeah.